I designed the multimedia lesson as like a sub-site to function within the main site here. So I created this separate navigation menu for the multimedia lesson that I kind of modeled after learning management systems like Blackboard. Um, and I arranged the menu in a hierarchical structure rather than like an alphabetical structure. So this is going from the where the learner should start to the end of the lesson. And I also included a link for help, which I'm going to talk more about here in a minute. So some of this information is actually repeated on the help page, and we'll see that. I'm going to go ahead and start with the navigation menu. You can see there's these rollovers that identify which link you're pointing to. If I click the Getting Started link here, it's going to take a second for some content to load. I really wanted to incorporate a high level of user interactivity in this lesson. I really wanted there to be, I know this is an asynchronous lesson where users would come and kind of, click links here and there and click to watch things and click to listen to things. But I know I've been using SoundCloud for a long time, and I think that's a great tool that allows you to, play the audio, but then leave these time-stamped comments on the audio track.
For a spin on a resistance trainer.
So I'm going to pause that, or I guess I can. But yeah, if you point to specific parts of the audio, you can leave a comment on the track. So you can actually create, I wouldn't really say it's a great tool for developing a long discussion, but you can certainly leave questions or comments about things that you found useful or maybe not so useful right there on the audio track. And then as an instructor, you could go back and look at those comments that learners were leaving and respond to them and maybe develop a one-on-one conversation, or you could take those comments and you could build out in another tool, a more robust discussion forum. So I like this because you don't just play the audio, but you have the ability to interact with the waveform here. So this page is the most densely kind of packed with text, and it's just partly setting up the lesson and giving users kind of some background and actually some things that might help with user interest and motivation to complete the lesson. So, reasons why they would want to ride an indoor bike trainer, for example, for health reasons, for money-saving reasons. There are links to actual workouts that users could watch for free if they were going to spin. So I've tried to include some stuff like that in here. But there's also going to be some words that are used throughout the lesson, and I wanted to really provide a definition or like a visual, I guess, definition of some of those things, so that before they start the lesson, they'll know what it's referring to. So, skewers are referred to many times throughout the lesson. Here, I wanted to link my viewers to a page that contains an image about the very same skewer that I'll be using in the lesson, as well as this thing I refer to as a riser block. It's also referred to as a leveling block, but we'll see more about what that is. So each page also contains numbered lists. I like the organization structure because you can just kind of glance at something and really know, where to start and where to end on the list, and that it matters that the order is listed there. So we're going to see this again, but I'm going to have throughout the lesson videos that users can watch, but these checklists. The checklists are completely optional, but they enable the user to follow along the very, very minimalistic kind of text that's listed there they'll be able to follow that with the more elaborate video. So there's a lot of exposition. I left all of the audio that I recorded in the audio only. I just edited down into shorter components for the videos, but all that exposition is still there. So it's very detailed, and gives the users the ability to kind of visually go through this checklist as they're hearing the steps. And I like that kind of interactivity. I don't see really checklists, at least not in this format, on a lot of websites. And I think it might actually be kind of an old-fashioned kind of thing, but I thought I'd throw it in there because I liked the idea of the interactivity. Anyway, speaking of interactivity, each module in the lesson has a self-check assessment embedded at the bottom of the page. I used a tool called Quizzer. That's QZZR. But this would give the learners the opportunity to read through the content on the page, watch the videos, listen to the audio tracks, and then take the short quiz to just kind of assess what they learned, right? So, for example, this question says, this lesson is designed for experienced road cyclists only. And if I select, I'm going to go ahead and say true, it lets the user know that that was incorrect. And there's also some feedback there that gives them a little more of an idea about who this lesson was designed for, right? So if they weren't clear on any of these concepts, they'll be able to go back and review the content on the page again. I'm going to go ahead and just finish up the quiz. It's real short because I want to show you at the end. It will give you your results. Here, I see that I made between 70 and 79%, and that 3 other people also got that score. So I can kind of see where I fall in an average. Well, not so much an average, but how many other users at least got that score. Excuse me. So I can retake the quiz, or at that point, I could decide that I want to review the content again, right? So I gave the Getting Started a pretty unambiguous name, like Getting Started, because I want learners to know where they're supposed to begin. And I found that's an extremely useful tool in all of our online courses. And I've taken some Quality Matters lessons and, or rather courses, and found that that's highly recommended that you create that with almost all lessons. So Getting Started is a good place to put all that introductory information about the lesson, but the meat of the lesson is really contained within these next 3 links. For example, prepare your bike for the trainer. I don't see, actually a lot of the content is missing here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of enable the script that's missing by clicking this little shield and saying that I'm going to enable that. The reason why I decided to leave that the way it is, I could have chosen to not use this tool, but I think this tool is so great and I wanted to use it. And I also decided to leave that in there for a teaching moment because that it allowed me to create this kind of help documentation and create these links that pointed to that help documentation. And I wanted to see how well my users could actually follow along with the links that I provided. And I wanted to be able to create a fair amount of support for that issue, right? So not all, technology is not perfect, as we know. And I provide Blackboard support in my job every day. And even Blackboard, which is a highly regulated learning management system, has a lot of compatibility issues with different users' machines, and a lot of not just technical errors, but still a lot of user error comes up. So, I didn't want to create this lesson in a vacuum or a bubble and just assume everything was going to go perfect and cheery. So I dropped the links to that help documentation that I realized users are probably going to need. So the top of each lesson contains each of the learning objectives, and the audio also describes the learning objectives in a little more detail. I included from the visual only instruction some graphics that serve as like diagrams. This is an overall kind of simplified graphic of the steps that users are going to go through in this module of the lesson. So this kind of lets you know where this instruction is where you're going to start on this module and where you're going to finish. And you can actually click the hyperlinked learning objectives here to jump through the lesson, right? So I've jumped down to step number 3. Here's that checklist that I was describing a moment ago. This video is embedded in a tool called Vialogs. I like this tool a lot. It's a free tool. I recorded all these videos and embedded or uploaded them to YouTube, right? So what you can do then is just, I'm going to pause that, rather just maybe turn down the volume. I uploaded those videos to YouTube, and then I took a link to share that video and brought it into Vialogs. And then I'm able to actually embed this Vialogs video. What is Vialogs? Well, it's a tool that allows you to create a dialogue or a discussion around a video. So if I pause this video right here, I can click at the bottom of the window, and it's actually going to leave a comment about second 25 in this video. So if I were to leave this comment now as a student, the instructor could go and read this comment, but also click the timestamp and link directly to that point in the video. So you can really get very specific about the content that you're discussing and see very clear examples of that content. And so I created a starter post here to encourage users to comment on part of the video that they find most or least helpful, just depending on what they liked or what was confusing. But all that audio exposition is there to expound on the very minimal text that's here. And then, of course, they'll see a realistic visual representation of that as well in the video. So I've also decided to lay out each of the pages, in a very predictable kind of way, in a linear, kind of almost like a table, right? So each step in the lesson is going to be separated by this horizontal rule. So it's like a row, and then there are 2 columns within each row that contain text and videos. So should be very easy to follow along. I've got the interactive audio at the bottom, along with some points to review, and then that embedded quiz as well. So because the Prepare the Trainer segment is almost identical to this in layout, at least, I'm going to jump to the help page, actually, which I've provided links to here as well. If viewers weren't seeing the videos, they would at least see this link and realize that some video content needed to populate. So they would click that link and jump to my help page. I'm going to jump to that accordion segment here that shows trouble viewing videos and describes what the ideal browsers are for this lesson. So I've defined those as Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox, and then as well as troubleshooting lessons for each one of the browsers, along with screenshots and links to the browser-specific help documentation about the error that they're receiving. So all of that should be easy for users to troubleshoot. So on my help page, I've included some links how to contact me through email, Twitter, as well as video conferencing using a tool called Zoom. So I've mentioned that I want to encourage users to comment on the audio tracks and the video tracks, but users might not know how to do that. So I've got links to how to create a SoundCloud forum, a SoundCloud account, how to create a Vialogs account, and then also how to actually comment. And then lastly, I've included some links to some additional useful resources for learners who are self-motivated and want to go and learn beyond the content that's just here in this lesson. for example, maybe some words are going to come up in this lesson that the user wants to know more about. I've included a link to just a pretty basic glossary. It's an alphabetical glossary of all kinds of bike terms. You would really have to, do a command or Control F to kind of jump to any term. It's not hyperlinked, but the glossary doesn't have a hyperlink index or anything like that. But it's basic and useful. And some other tools that come up through the lesson, like I use all these Cyclops tools, like the not tools, components, like the trainer tire, the resistance trainer itself, the floor mat, all that stuff, the riser block, that can all be found on the Cyclops website. And then tire levers, they're one of the most essential parts of being able to complete this lesson. So my favorite brand of tire levers, I've listed a link to their page, and you can actually purchase them through Pedro's. And then a link to a good training resource. Of course, you would have to pay a subscription to this. They have a free trial, but it's called the Sufferfest, so you kind of get the idea about what kind of cardio workout you're going to get, but pretty good stuff there. Thank you for visiting, and have a great day.